All right, what's going on? Just wanted to talk a little bit about armor breaks in the game and how I feel that it's sort of wasted potential on monsters like Grimy, on monsters like where's yeah, Porcupine guy. Um, of course, I think there's a lot of ways the game can be improved, very simple ways that you could add like more layers of strategy to the game, right? But I felt that I just want to talk about specifically these two monsters today, and why their abilities that are really unique are just wasted in a way that it's really a shame that you know these guys don't see more use because of how the levels are designed. And what I mean is that what both of these monsters share in common is that they decrease enemy defense, right? Their special attacks are all to cut down enemy defense, which in theory should be good, right? You have your main monster, you have a monster that cuts down defense, something like Anubis to make them even weaker, damage buffs on your DPS carry, all that sort of stuff that like can combo together to create for really high damage combos, right? But what ends up happening is that you know be, even though these monsters have strong defense cutdown effects, right? Like 50% less defense, it has potential to be a lot. But I feel that enemy and enemy buffs, they really just aren't designed with a lot of defense. And they really don't take that into consideration a lot, right? You see buffs from enemies like the King, enemies like not the Dark Knight, yeah, like the King, the Knight, of course. These guys that increase defense, and then of course even like the base defense of monsters, of enemies themselves, right? They're just not very high compared to the damage that people usually be doing to them, especially in the stage of the game they're in, right? Like the defense on enemies in the elemental challenges are super low compared to the damage that your monsters are actually going to be doing to them. And what that basically results in throughout the entirety of the game, basically, where defense is so low compared to damage that the enemies are taking, the buffs are so low compared to what the defenses are, and again damage that they're taking. The stat of defense really just doesn't see any attention at all. And seeing how it is a main part of enemies, right? It's a main part of their speed. It's a along with their speed, along with their HP, you have their defense, right? But their defense really just doesn't see any attention, and because of that, the armor breaking monsters don't see any attention at all. And I think what that results in is just it adds another I guess roadblock in creating more depth in gameplay, more strategies in gameplay. Because now originally this extra stat you had to worry about, this extra stat that you might need to account for, even if it's just in end game content, right? You might need to work out like where you want to put your Grimy, where you want to put your Spiky, right? Just to see, so you can utilize armor breaking effects, right? So you can get through levels. But now these very unique monsters, their abilities, and really the defense stat as a whole is sort of meaningless. It's useless, right? Because now what you do is just you build up double buffs on a mythic, and you overpower them, or you have back then it was perma stalling. Yeah, I just feel like the stat of defense is very ignored, and that's just one of the issues now. Really making the gameplay a lot more boring, a lot less a lot less interesting in developing your setups and paying attention to that type of stuff. And I guess the argument can be made that in terms of the devs making money from this game, having an uncommon or rare monster be viable in the end game, probably not the best, because of course it's end game content, there should be end game units, yada yada yada. But I think that's not always the correct decision, right? Because just I think making the gameplay as best as possible is what gets players to keep playing. It's what will get them to spend money. It's what will get them to continue playing the game for a long time, especially when there's more interactions in the game, like with defense, right? So Spiky and Spiky and Grimy, maybe a possible solution would be to just buff the defense a little, right? You don't need to buff it a lot or it becomes a game-changing factor. You just need to buff it enough so that it's not obscure, so that people don't just literally forget about it as a stat that doesn't exist, right? Maybe have Spiky and Grimy be viable as a 8th or 9th unit. Probably I'd say a 9th unit, considering their rarity levels, and you know, how you also don't want defense to be too strong. Or you can incorporate something like an epic monster, a legendary monster, even just add an effect to monsters, right? That gives them a way to break down defense. There's a lot of monsters that are pretty useless in their current state, I'd say. Notably, a lot of special ones, right? Stuff like Limzard, stuff like Monkey, stuff like Archangel Cassiel. These guys are really going to be useless because they just do flat out normal damage. They have really bad damage, you know, Malik too. And you could just add like an armor breaking effect to them, you know, make them a lot better. Maybe have it increase with star level or something. Just anything that adds, you know, more depth to the game, and anything that incorporates defense. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I thought I just want to talk about you know, defense a little bit, Grimy and Spiky, you know, sort of wasted potential in the game. If you guys want to see more videos like this, you know, I think I have a lot of you know, decent feedback for the game in terms of how it could be changed. You know, just very slight changes that'll make it a bit more strategy focused in the challenges, right? Of course, the classic levels are meant for the idle tower defense experience, but I feel that, you know, challenges you should be actively playing, right? And that might not be good for the farming aspect of it, but it's definitely good in the long run for developing more, you know, setups, for keeping players playing longer, right? So they don't get burned out from the game, they don't get bored of it. Yeah, it's gonna be it for this video. Like, subscribe, and see ya.